Good morning, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us and welcome to this webinar called Step by Step, the Higg FEM Verification Trail. We from Leadership and Sustainability have the honor to be your guide for today. And this is the first in a series of webinars where we will take you into depth of the different sections of the Higg FEM, the Facility Environmental Module. So my name is Karin Ekberg, and I'm the manager of the consulting company Leadership and Sustainability. I have spent more than 30 years in the sustainability area, worked in many different sectors, but during the past 10 years, I have worked predominantly in the textile sector. Before I started my own company, Leadership and Sustainability, I worked several years at Adidas in the role of Head of Environmental Services. And also presenting today is Aladdin Okur. Aladdin, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, sure, Karin. Hello, everyone. I'm Aladdin. I've been working more than 6 years in textile sector on environmental sustainability as an environmental engineer, and now I mostly use Higg FEM for environmental assessments these days.
Thank you, Aladdin. Okay, so let's get started. Today, we will introduce you to the SAC Higg FEM Facility Environmental Module, specifically the sections 1 and 2. The section 1 about facility information and permits, and the section 2 about environmental management systems. We will also have time for questions and discussion, and we will also make you an offer and present our team to you. And now let me introduce you to the verification trail. The purpose of the verification trail is to give you a better and deeper understanding of the Higg FEM. We have already made several webinars or had several webinars about the Higg FEM, about the verification of the Higg FEM, etc. And then we received many requests to have more details. So this is now the answer to your requests. And we will take you through the Higg FEM section by section and make you acquainted actually with all the requirements. And here you can see an overview of all the sections that are included in the FEM module. We will focus on the first two today, as I mentioned, facility information and permits and environmental management systems. And now let me introduce you to the SAC Higg FEM. These slides give you an overview of the Higg Index suite of tools. The suite of tools covers the brand and retail module, which means that it focuses on the corporate level of brands and retailers mainly. However, the brand and retail module is actually also useful for manufacturers. And then we have also the facilities and facility modules, focusing on manufacturing sites, your own or your suppliers or subcontractors. And finally, we have the product tools, focusing on the product level. And I also wish to give you, before we dive into the details of the two different sections we will talk about today, I wish you also to give you an overview of the Higg FEM before we move into those details. The Higg FEM is an online self-assessment tool for facilities. As you have seen before on the trail, the FEM is divided into several sections. They are listed here. At the beginning, in the section 1, there are applicability questions, and also in some of the other sections, there are applicability questions. And based on the factory response to these questions, the actual sections questions will be selected automatically for you. So depending on what type of factory you are, you will receive different questions. The questions are always sorted into 3 levels, levels 1, 2, 3, which means foundational, progressive, and aspirational, which is level 3. And SAC wants us to drive towards aspirational levels, moving up levels when answered yes or partially yes. So which means that in every section which is scored, you need to reach level 1 before you can move on to level 2 and 3. So at level 1, you need to have a yes to all questions or a partial yes. If you have just one no at level 1, you will not be able to move on to level 2 and 3. There are annual reporting and verification cycles. And in this year, for example, the self-assessment was due by June 30th, but it actually opened up again. So currently there are new facilities again taking the safe self-assessment. And in next year, the self-assessment for the first phase will be due by April 30th, as far as we know today. And the verification can take place anytime, January to December. It is voluntary. So you don't need to do the verification if you don't want to, or perhaps you have buyers or clients, customers who would like you to verify. The verification is also usually taking place on site. And there is guidance given. There is a document online called How to Higg, where there is a lot of detailed information about every question in the Higg FEM. So please have a look there. It's a very long document, but it actually adds value and helps you if you go into that document and have a look what is actually needed. And now I would like to take you to the higg.org platform and just show the structure of the Higg FEM. Give me a second here and I will move there. So now here you should be able to see my screen with a testing facility that I have set up for us. And you can see the name here to the left. And then you can see the different sections: site info and permit, EMS, energy, etc. And you can also see which percentage, how far we have come with completing this self-assessment. And you can, for example, also see for EMS, etc., all of those sections have 3 levels. And you can see how far we have come in every section. So for the EMS section, currently we are working on level 1 only. Energy, we have moved on to level 2 and 3. And then we will walk you through a bit of the site info and permit a bit later as well. So this was it for the overview of the Higg FEM online. So let's continue with the presentation. I also wanted to give you some general but very important advice to all of you who are doing your self-assessment or preparing to get verified. And this is to appoint at least one person who is responsible to complete the Higg FEM self-assessment on an annual basis. This person may need a team to support. Usually you don't have all the information with one person, but it is really good to have one person coordinating the entire project of completing the self-assessment. Then also again, read the How to Higg guidance. If you are going for verification, there is also specifically guidance related to how to prepare for the verification. Then respond accurately to the questions and comprehensively and document all responses. And also upload as many documents as you can. This really helps you in making sure that you have a complete response to all questions. And SAC requires actually documentation proof for many questions. And the SAC guidance on how to verify, the How to Higg guidance, is very strict regarding documentation. So for example, if you don't upload a lot of documents and then you want to go through verification, the verifier will ask you to show those documents, and you can save time by preparing that accordingly. Then also be clear when you're setting targets and baselines. So do some thinking before you start with those sections. The energy section, the water and the waste, specifically where you set quantitative targets as well. It's very important that you know exactly how much you consume, for example. That's already a level 1 question. But then at level 2, you will draw a baseline, and you will also set targets and follow up on targets and have implementation plans. And here think it through, discuss it with your managers before you set those baseline, so that you have a consistent approach and can follow up year by year. Also, be aware that you will need perhaps a lot of time to complete the self-assessment. And of course, the ultimate goal is to improve every year. And so this self-assessment is not a pass or fail. There is no passing or failing in that sense, but it is really a tool to improve continuously. And now I would like to hand over to Aladdin to describe the section 1, site info and permits. Aladdin, please.
Thanks, Karin. And now let's have a look at the first section, the facility site and information. Yeah, one of the intention of this section is to categorize your factory. The section that requires information regarding your processes to determine facilities, permits, and compliance status. And this section is not scored, but valid operating license required to earn any points in FEM. If there is not valid operating license, you will be not allowed to get score any section. Yeah, we can move next. Here we have a concrete overview of the information needed to fulfill the requirements. As you see, country, industry, facility type, material types, total number of employees, total annual production. And I just want to give an example for facility type. Higg says in here, please select all types that apply to your site. This means that if you are a cut and sew facility that also does screen printing or wet processing on site, you would select both sewing and final product assembly and wet processes. Might be washing, dyeing, or printing. Yeah.
So let's move to this section here and have a look at what it looks like. So this is the start of the first section, the site info and permit. And there is first some guidance, some information, and then here you can go and select the country where you are operating in, for example, Albania. Then you select the industry sector, and as soon as you click there, you see that a long list of potential sectors are listed here. And let's say you are in the apparel sector. You click on the apparel sector and then you click on done. And later for the facility type here, also for sewing or final product assembly, you choose if you have that or no. If you choose yes, you will see we have a yes, and then we have, let's say we have printing or dyeing as well. We don't have materials manufacturer, etc. So you see, you have to respond to each and every list that comes up here. Otherwise, you will not be able to complete your self-assessment. So whenever you see a question and choose, for example, you need to respond. And then for the facility processes for sewing or final product assembly, which we selected previously, you can then mark up which processes exactly that you have within your factory. So you may have many more than the 2 that I have marked up here, etc., etc. So there is a lot of information to be collected here, and it's really important to be very specific here, so that you also get the right categorization of your facility. Then you should also include how many days your facility operates in 2018. In this year, when you do the self-assessment, you are always reporting against 2018. So it's always about the data from 2018, etc. So you see there is also your annual production volume. And so those are all the questions that you have in the site info and permit. So take some time and really respond to this accurately. And let's move on to the presentation and back to Aladdin again.
Yeah, permits. Intention of, could you open the questions, Karin? Yeah, question 1 and 2 and 3. There are 3 questions in here. Intention of these questions, actually question 1 and 2 in here, your factory must meet basic local regulations before proceeding to beyond compliance sustainability behavior. These questions confirms that you have a valid operating license before completing the Higg Index. As I mentioned at the beginning, operating license is a must to score points if it's required by law. And here is the question, does your facility site have a valid operating license if required by law? So how will this be verified? Documentation is required, copy of up-to-date business license, if applicable, and any other relevant licenses. Second question is that, did your facility receive any government-issued environmental violation records in 2018? Also in here, documentation required. We are going to ask you copy of government-issued violation records. In the final part, in this section, you will see that please complete also all questions to provide details on your facility's environmental permits requirements and compliance status, such as water use permits. If you use underground water, you need definitely permits, water discharge permits, air permits, include permits or requirements for air emissions from stacks of utilities such as boilers, diesel generators. Chemical permits. For some dangerous chemicals, you might need a permit to storage and use. Also, in some regions, waste management plan must be approved by the Environmental Ministry periodically. So you can mention about it in solid waste discharge section. So we can walk through the demo.
All right, let's go online again and have a look at the permit section. So here we are still in the same, both site info and permits is in the same tab here. And here we come to the permit section. First, a small introduction. And then you have to respond here. Do you have a valid operating license if required by law? Yes. You also need to upload the operating license. That's a must. There is no other possibility to explain or so. You really need to upload the operating license. If you respond no, then you will actually not be able to score any points at all for the self-assessment. You can continue to complete the self-assessment, but you will not you will not score anything. And this, I think, is obvious. You need to, of course, have the license to operate to be valid. And then here, as Aladdin mentioned, you have the long list of different environmental permits that you may have, and here you should list all of them. So for example, if you have for water use, if you have a specific permit for water use, you need to select yes, and then you should explain what is the name of the regulatory agency, is there an expiration date, what is your compliance, and then also you should upload the document, etc. for water discharge, wastewater treatment, etc. So you say yes or you say no. You can say unknown as well, but you should actually know if you need a permit or not, etc. So then you have to complete this table, and with that you have done the site info and permit section. So then you are finished with that. All right, so now we will continue then with the EMS, with the Environmental Management System section. The Environmental Management System is a holistic management system and process to identify, track, and manage the environmental impacts of your facility over time. It is possible to make significant changes in your facility without a management system. However, your facility can only maximize environmental performance by having a management system and also by setting a long-term strategy that will inform decision-making on environmental management. And regarding the section environmental management system in the Higg, We have the 3 levels here, and you see at level 1, we have 6 questions with the topics you can see here on the screen. At level 2, we have 2 questions, and at level 3, we have 4 questions. And we will now walk you through those questions one by one. The first question at level 1 is about staff responsibility. Are one or more employees at your facility responsible for coordinating your facility's environmental management activities? Facilities should have clearly defined roles and responsibility for any staff responsible for coordinating environmental management activities at the facility. These employees must deal directly with the environmental management and have defined roles for that purpose. The roles could be either required in their job description or accountabilities or designated by relevant system documents. An environmental management team organizational chart and clear job descriptions could help to keep the members also accountable to the roles. And here, in order to write a yes to this question, you do need to have some documentation available as well. So you should have an organization chart, a job description records, where also the employee name, job title, etc. are listed. Then the next question is about the EMS strategy. And this is actually a question where we, during verifications, often have quite long discussions because in the SAC requirements in the How to Higg, we have the requirement that the strategy is a long-term strategy and that it reaches at least 3 years into the future. And this means that you need to have a plan. You need to have a strategy that reaches 3+ years on a rolling basis. So it's not enough that you have a strategy from 2016 that reaches into 2019 and you are reporting in 2018. You actually always have to have at least 3 years into the future. So 2018, you need to have goals reaching 2021, etc. And you also have to have your facility's significant environmental impacts and compliance obligations prioritized. And this is also a point that we often discuss with facilities, what exactly is needed. Furthermore, the strategy should of course be supported by facility leadership and be communicated to all employees. And to ensure environmental objectives are also carried out, your strategy should include plans for achievement that detail what will be done, what resources will be required, who will be responsible, when it will be completed, and how results will be evaluated. So in order to get a yes here, you actually need to have all those elements also documented. And of course, you should be able to explain them as well. And the next question, question 3, is about identifying impacts. Has your facility identified the significant environmental impacts associated with current operations within the factory premises? And for facilities that have something to show here, we often see 2 types of reports. One report type is from the environmental impact assessment done when building the factory. This usually describes the impact on the environment, like wastewater impact, etc. However, usually it doesn't prioritize the impacts and aspects. So it doesn't really clearly explain what are the significant environmental impacts. And very often the document is also old and outdated. So if you have a factory that is older than 3 years, this document is probably not actual anymore. Another type of report that we also sometimes see is a much more detailed report where all departments have followed a clear structure and defined the risks and impacts at a very detailed level and with a clear methodology. This is often a very, very good work that has been done and is an important step. However, what is often missing is a summary at a factory level, because this question is about understanding which are my significant environmental impacts at factory level, at the facility level. So if you have a long list of perhaps 20 different potential environmental impacts, and you should be able to identify and say, okay, for me, energy efficiency, waste reduction, chemicals management are the most important, just as an example. And so therefore also in order to reach a yes, you do need to have a documentation about how you have done it. It is not enough that you say, okay, I know that energy is the most important for me, or my clients tell me that energy is the most important. Of course, what your clients and your buyers input to you is important also to consider when you address and identify your significant environmental impacts, but you need to have your own view as well. So this is also a very important part, and this is really a foundation for your environmental work and a foundation for you to really achieve good results and good improvements. Then the next question is about the monitoring environmental permits. Does your site have a program or system in place to review and monitor environmental permit status and renewal and ensure compliance? So in the section of site information and permits, we looked at all the questions you have related there and all the permits and licenses that you may have. And it is important that you keep track of them also in a documented manner. And the next question is similar, but slightly different. Does your facility maintain a documented system to identify, monitor, and periodically verify all laws, regulations, standards, codes, and other legislative and regulatory requirements for your significant environmental impacts? So here you need a really long list of all laws that are and regulations, etc., that are applicable to you. And SAC has actually made available a template to use. So you can use this actually both for question 4 and question 5. And if you click on the link here, you will be able to download the entire table. This is just an extract. This doesn't copy all the entire table. And now I would like to ask Aladdin to continue with the next questions. Please, Aladdin.
Thanks, Karin. Question 6 is, does your facility have a process and schedule to maintain all equipment? Last but not least, in level 1, all equipment for production and operation should be maintained regularly in order to ensure compliance and reduce environmental impact. In order to reach yes in here, documentation is required always. Equipment maintenance schedule, equipment maintenance log. Yeah, we can move on next. Now we can continue with level 2 and level 3, dealing especially with competence and communication. This question, number 7, shall motivate the management to communicate environmental management strategies or opportunities to the facility management team so they are aware of environmental progress each year. In order to reach yes, you should have site EMS management review meeting plan, management review meeting agenda, meeting notes, action plans and timelines, meeting attendance records. Also, there will be interview questions to ask. Management should be able to clearly articulate in detail the current long-term strategy. For inspection, the things to physically look for, training materials for most recent training conducted in the last year, training sheets for training sheets for employees in attendance. Yeah, question number 8 covers the technical competence of the people responsible for environmental management. You should be able to demonstrate value in technical training for staffs with technical backgrounds such as university degrees and prior work experience, training program certificates to manage your facilities' environmental impacts. Only experienced staff will be able to perform well, which is not only beneficial for your facility, but also for their own confidence. In order to reach yes, you should be able to present a list of individuals that are responsible for environmental related issues, environmental management team organization chart, roles and responsibilities, and their background and qualification in corresponding area, certificates proving their professional qualifications, training records showing the person in charge has received training from time to time, update his or her knowledge in environmental management field. That's all for me now, Karin.
Thank you so much, Aladdin. All right, let's move on. We still have a few questions. We are now at level 3, employee awareness. Does your facility promote awareness of the environmental strategy to employees? And level 3 strongly promotes holistic communication. It is significant to be in constant and clear dialogue with your stakeholders so that everyone is on the same page when it comes to your business values and practices. So the facility management shall communicate your environmental strategy and action plan to the facility's workers through, and of course all other employees as well, through trainings, newsletters, posters, or other mechanisms. And here as well, we need documentation. We need a plan for promoting awareness of the environmental strategy, and it should include the schedule and frequency of communications, as well as the content to be delivered, attendance records, and employee evaluations on the success of the program. And communication may be posters, newsletters, games and competitions, awards, etc. And by the way, all the detailed information that we give you regarding what is needed, you can find in the How to Higg document. All right, and then next question, number 10. Does your facility monitor, evaluate, and/or engage with your subcontractors on their environmental performance using the Higg index? The environmental footprint of the products you produce includes your subcontractors' impacts. Through the Higg index, you communicate that your environmental impact matters to your business with subcontractors. By that, you can work with them to evaluate their own performance and search for improvements. So that's why we have question 10. And in order to reach a yes here, among others, you need documentation. You need to have a list of all subcontractors that your facility conducts business with, along with which ones have posted Higg FEM modules. You need to have proof of your Higg index engagement to show, for example, Higg.org connections and shared modules or other documentation of subcontractor module results. Also, you should have an evaluation system, a subcontractor evaluation system and monitoring plan, which could include, for example, an EMS training for subcontractors, an annual training plan, training materials, etc. And then at question 11, here you are able to share your engagement in projects, initiatives, and collaborations with different stakeholders in your community. Your facility has an impact on the environment it is located in, so that's why it's important to engage with local entities and integrate environmental improvement into your local context as well. And here, in order to respond yes, you should have documentation, for example, evidence of environmental improvement in your local context, in your community, for example, donations to local charities, participation in local environmental initiatives, clean up actions, community service outcomes, newspapers, etc., and also a list of local stakeholders and dates of engagement. And question 12, The same as with your subcontractors, it is important to be aware of your chemical, raw material, or other material suppliers and be in direct communication with them about your environmental programs. For instance, you want to make sure you are purchasing chemicals from a supplier that gives you accurate information so you can work under the best possible conditions. And here, in order to reach yes or respond with yes, you should have a list of all your upstream suppliers and their facility that your facility conducts business with. You should also have proof of Higg index engagement, registration invitations, communications, requests for completion, Higg org module share, etc. And also have your communication with upstream suppliers and their feedback regarding how to use the Higg FEM. And now let me show you some of those questions on the online platform. So this was the last question in the EMS section, and I will now show you what it looks like online. And after that, we will begin and have a look at your questions. So please prepare and send in any questions if you haven't done so yet. Here we are now in the EMS section. You can see here on the left where we are in the list of content. We are in the EMS section, and level 1, question 1. Are one or more employees at your facility responsible for coordinating your facility's environmental management activities? And currently you can see the response is no, and so there is no additional information to complete here. But now let's choose a yes, that you have that, and then you see this table opens up, and you can now add every employee who's involved with environmental management: name, job title, how much time they spend, full-time, half-time, part-time, seasonal contract, select which environmental topics that they are working on, and also describe their roles, describe the roles and responsibilities that they have. And you do that for everyone. So normally you have perhaps a team of 1 to 4 or 5 persons who are involved more intensively with the environmental management. Then the question number 2, this is, as we discussed, also one of the important questions. Does your facility have a company environmental management strategy that guides long-term decision making? We say yes, and then you can here select all topics covered by this strategy. And you can see I have already done that. I have probably selected all already, and you can do so too, or whatever the sections are or the topics are that are covered by your strategy. Then you should also upload your strategy. If you don't have a document that you can upload, you are also allowed to describe it here where you see this X's. You can write, we have a strategy 2022 and XX is responsible, etc. So you fill out this, but please do that in quite some detail if you cannot upload a document. Furthermore, has your facility identified the significant environmental impacts? The next question, yes, and then also upload document or explain. So it goes on and on with all those questions here, and depending on if you respond yes or no, you will get additional follow-up questions to the individual questions. All right, so that's the EMS section. And you can now also see that because we responded yes to all questions here, we can now move on also to level 2 and to level 3. If I, for example, respond yes, a no here at question 6 regarding maintenance, now you can see I cannot move on to level 2 and 3 because I have one no here. So that closes the door to levels 2 and 3 if I have a no. If I change back to a yes, it opens up again. All right, so that was the demo of the EMS section on the platform. And now I would like to open up for your questions. And let me see if we have any questions here. Yes. Okay. Here is a question. Will there be other webinars or seminars for product tools? Yes, we will have webinars about the product tools as well. The product tools and the main product tool, which is a tool that is similar to an LCA, but it is simplified. It hasn't yet been published. Finally, it will be finished in next year, and then when that is the right time to do that, we will hold seminars about that as well. Thank you for the question. Of course, you can always send in questions later if you would like. Yeah, we have a question here. Thanks for your time. Is it that possible to get all this info in a document? Yes, of course. You will receive this presentation and you will also receive the recording in an email sent out separately to you within 2 to 3 days. And the verification, exactly. So the question here is verification is not required until any buyers requested. Yes, the verification is voluntary. So, and of course the self-assessment is voluntary as well, but you do the self-assessment and you are not obliged to also do verification. You may want to do it because only if you have done the verification can you also publish your result. And towards the end of this year, SAC will issue guidance about how to publish your results. But you can do that only if you have verified results. And of course, if you have buyers who are asking you to verify and you want to comply with your buyer, then you would also go through the verification. And here is someone who is asking, what is the difference between subcontractors and upstream vendors? Yes. So a subcontractor is, for example, let's say that you have someone externally who is doing cutting for you. You are a garment factory, but you don't do the cutting yourself. You buy the fabrics, but you don't do the cutting. So perhaps you give that away to an external facility who does that for you. That would then be a subcontractor. Also, sometimes we see facilities who have washing entities as subcontractors, but it's still within their, so to say, within their own production because they still take back the product in the end and then sell it to or ship it to their clients. The upstream vendors, the upstream suppliers, those are the ones who, for example, deliver the fabrics to you, or if you are a dye house who delivers the dyes to you and other chemicals, or the trims, for example. So I hope that that is clear. All right, then yes, and here's a question. If a facility has done an ISO 14001, does it cover the EMS and DIA required in the Higg FEM? Yes, it does. If you have an ISO 14001, you should be able to respond to yes for most questions, all questions in the EIA, and also most questions in the EMS. The ISO 14001 doesn't require a long-term strategy with quantified goals at least 3 years ahead into the future. So that is an added topic. And then also ISO 14001 doesn't require, for example, outreach to subcontractors or suppliers in such a distinct way that it, of course, it encourages, but it doesn't require it in the same way that the EMS section does. So those are a few differences that we have. But if you have an ISO 14001, you should come very far actually with both those two sections. And then we have an explanation here coming in. Thank you so much for the EMS strategy for 3-year needs to contain baseline, target achieved. It needs to be aligned with environmental policy. Yeah, that's correct. And then will there be any webinars for brands reviewing Higg FEM 2018? There will not be any specific webinars for brands, but I think that the information that we have, and I will also give you information about previous webinars we have, it will be possible for you to get all the information you need. And otherwise, if you're looking for something specifically, you can also reach out to me individually. And then the next question, if the link with the question 8 about environmental competence, when you try to evaluate if someone is in charge of environmental management, if they need to be in university background or official training given by external third party or training on site would be accepted. Yes, this is very different. There are people who have perhaps another background, but have worked in the environmental area for many years and have been trained on the job for many years. That's one road. Another is, of course, that you have a degree in environmental science, for example, or in manufacturing, where you probably also have environmental courses. It could also be that you have attended a course on environmental management systems, for example, or specifically about air emissions, specifically about waste, etc. But we do have a look at what is the educational background that the persons have, but also, of course, what is their experience and training on the job. Yeah, and then the question, how does the factory inform the public about the Higg verification? Yes, this is not defined yet finally, but SAC is working on this. There will be, towards the end of the year, there will be information coming from SAC about how to do this. Including with how to show certificates and how to communicate the scores, etc. But it's not available finally yet. We have seen some drafts of it, but it's not final yet. Okay, so those were, no, we have more. Seminars planned in UK, not now, happy to arrange. And also CIDEX, can you use information from CIDEX? The CIDEX doesn't cover the environmental area in such detail that the that the Higg FEM does. So you would be able to use some information, yes, but not all of it. And especially from ethical and social audits, you will not be able to use a lot of information at all. Yeah, and regarding uploading of questions, uploading of documents to the questions, sometimes it's actually mandatory to upload a document, like with the environmental license permit. But in other cases, you can upload a document or you can describe, and you will see that when you do the self-assessment. So it differs a bit, but I actually suggest that you upload as much as possible. It's really helpful to do that. Yes, we are making verifications. That's correct. We do that. There is a scheme managed by SAC and Sumera that manages how to do the verification, and we are approved verifiers, both general verifiers and chemical specialist verifiers, so we can do that work. Yeah, so there are a few more questions, and I will respond to them after this webinar, because I think we are beginning to run out of time, and I would like to continue. There are a few questions that needs a bit more time to explain. But thank you so much for all those questions. That's really very, very helpful and informative for us as well. And now let me just move on and show you also some of our services. So we are, as I said, we are trainers and verifiers, and we have been doing actually verifications in many countries already, in quite a lot of countries. And we also have people who speak several languages, and we would be happy to support you with your verification project. So just get in touch if you're interested. Also, for the verification for this year, for the 2018 FEM, you need to do the verification until the end of the year. So until December 31st, it needs to be posted online. but our experience tells us that the last months of the year, basically beginning already now, are very full. And therefore, please plan your verification in advance and well ahead. And also, if you would like to learn more about Higg FEM, I recommend some of our previous webinars. The first 3 here that you can see on the screen, they are all about Higg FEM. The last one here is about management systems. It's not only about ISO 14001, it's actually a more general about the need for management systems, how they help, how they can support you in the structure, and how ISO now have management systems who are also very much harmonized. ISO 9001, 14001, 50001 for energy, and 45001 for health and safety. And also, if you are interested in training or verification or other services, please contact us. You can do that on our website with a booking page, so-called. So when you receive this presentation, you can go and click on this booking page link and you can book a time directly with me. So you follow the steps shown here. And otherwise, you can also just email us. You can email me. You can email for Turkey. You can email Aladdin, who was on this webinar as well. And you can also in Bangladesh email Hafiz. And now I would like to introduce you briefly to our team. So you heard Aladdin today and myself, and we also have Hafiz, who is managing our company in Bangladesh. And he is also a trainer and a verifier and also a chemical specialist verifier. And then we also have Laura here. And Laura has helped prepare a good portion of today's webinar. So many thanks to all of you for the support. And finally, there will be a survey with a few questions available after this webinar. We are honestly very grateful to you for your input. So please take 2 minutes to respond to the survey. And with that, thanks for joining us today. Have a good rest of your day and goodbye.